Welcome to Money 2020. We have a very special segment today, which is all around a feature on credit unions. I am Scarlett Sieber, Money 2020's Chief Strategy and Growth Officer, and I am so honored to have Dietrich, the CEO of Navy Federal, sitting next to me. So Dietrich, thank you for spending the time with us today.
Thank you, Scarlett. I'm very thankful that you asked that I could talk to you for a little bit.
I have to say, you know this because we've talked offline a few times around this, but I am a big fan of Navy Federal and your commitment to your members. When you think about, and you've spent a long time with Navy Federal, can you talk about what's been one of the most defining moments of Navy Federal's journey and growth journey to get to the point that you are today?
Yeah, I would say on the growth side, it was the commitment to build branches near bases and really dive into the component of our membership that was originally active duty and then included ultimately all services instead of just Navy, and finally went to all veterans, and then their families. And the way it kind of works for us is we can go 2 generations up, 2 generations down, and 1 generation over. And as a result of that steady growth in our who could become a member, and us really leaning in on our belief that the members are the mission and our desire to really support the members, we've just seen really phenomenal growth as a result.
And you certainly have, and you are really the leader in the industry when it comes to this. There is something quite special about credit unions and the commitment and passion and connection to the members. You just talked about the evolution of Navy Federal, starting specifically with one brand, one armed service, all the way to families and generations around. If there was a point that you could focus on, maybe a challenge or opportunity to the growth that you are today, what would you say?
I think the challenge is just being able to continue to serve all our members while staying focused on the core membership. Because the core membership really are the active duty veterans and families, and those that are most directly touched by service. But by serving them well, we can extend that service to the much broader, inclusive of the extended families who can also become members. So I think the challenge is just continuing to perform at that level, and to be able to do it as our membership grows, to be able to scale our ability to continue to provide that just top-end customer service, which we would really call member service in our case.
Yeah.
But that scaling is really important because we really believe it's vital for our membership to always have a direct path to a human being. So while we have a digital-first strategy and we do build a lot of digital capabilities and make that available to the membership, we always give them a very easy out to get in touch with our 24/7 contact center, to get to one of our branches, which we continue to grow and expand. So, because some people really want that personal touch, and we want to give our members the service in whatever way they most want to receive it.
On a session earlier today at Money 2020, you mentioned, you always have to get to a person, which I thought was really powerful. Given the composition of your member base and the international focus of them, do you feel like Navy Federal in specific had to accelerate to digital sooner and faster because your members are all over the world, or just talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, that's a great point because we want our members to be able to connect to us. Our active duty when they're deployed. Even our DoD civilians do quite a few deployments. So, and when they deploy, their whole family still needs to get in touch with us, which is, so no matter where they are in the world, they need to connect, which is why our contact center is 24/7 and why it's all US based. We never shut down because we need to be available for them. So driving us to digital just gave us more touch points for that membership who sometimes can't get to a phone. In a lot of secure facilities that the military operates in, they're not allowed to bring their cell phone. So they still have to find a way to connect to us even when that can't happen. So the digital capabilities, in this case mostly online banking, allows them still to be able to get a hold of us.
It's like the innovation by force. You don't really have a choice when this is the world that you're in.
We do.
When you were speaking earlier as well, 24,000 employees. I have less than 1% of that. Managing people is hard. You said that. I I could not believe what you shared, that in the 91 years you have not had a single layoff, that Forrester rates you #1 for customer experience. This is not normal. I don't, you are such a humble leader. These are not normal stats. This is so special. What is your secret sauce? How is this possible?
Well, it's definitely the team members themselves. That's what we call employees. And frankly, because I'm only been with the credit union 6 years, I've inherited a wonderful team that has really been supported throughout our journey, 91-year journey. That's always been focused on them. And I remember I did take over a new division early in my time at Navy Federal and got to run the real estate program for a little bit while we broke that off. And really the challenge that we were having in real estate was that we had a bunch of team members carrying caseloads of 125 mortgages in an industry where to serve well, you can't carry more than 25. And so when I came in, I just said, okay, we're going to raise the interest rate because we're not taking care of our people, and therefore our people can't take care of our members. And I got the full support of the front office to lower the volume so we could get it down to where our people could handle the caseload. And then we obviously did some hiring too, because we want to serve as many members as we can. So that's the kind of decisions that we make because we really believe that taking care of our team members matters. And when you have that, there's always an option. Well, we found that there's always an option around layoffs. You can always reskill as the mortgage industry has fundamentally changed. I did a lot of hiring during my time during COVID. After I moved from the real estate business and became the COO, the person who followed me ended up taking several of his mortgagors and moving them to contact center because in COVID, toward the end of COVID, the mortgage market went way down as interest rates went way up. But the number of people who were calling us skyrocketed.
Yeah.
And so the contact center really needed help. And so we just were able to transfer skill sets and move them to the other location and still didn't need to lay anybody off. So there's a way.
There is, and you've obviously proved that at scale, because I think that's an easy thing to say, and when organizations are smaller, they maybe have more of an ability to do this, but you've shown that at scale it is still possible. And back in my consulting days, I had a handful of credit union clients, and one of the things that I've always loved about the space is that you were the original innovators and personalizers when it came to serving specific segments and demographics, which is amazing. And I know obviously over the years, Navy Federal has invested a lot in technology. In 2024, we're here. You're obviously at Money 2020. We're having a lot of conversations about tech. What are the technologies that Navy Federal is investing in now, and how has that kind of changed over time?
Yeah, that's a great question. So my predecessor, Mary McDuffie, who was the CEO for 5 years, I came on as she was just starting. In fact, she hired me. I was running branches at the time. But she built our initial strategy around building up mostly our data platform. And so we have over 5 years built a first-class data infrastructure. Because if you're going to do the type of personalization that everybody's talked about, and if you're going to do the type of AI that everybody has talked about at Money 2020, you have to start with the data. And I think almost every speaker that you have emphasized, if you don't have good data, you're not going to be able to win in this space and really be able to personalize. So we built the infrastructure, we have the data, and we're working really hard to make sure that we keep data privacy paramount and build it in the front of everything, and data security paramount and build that into the front. So quality data, quality infrastructure, focus on privacy and security, and now how can we put that data to use for the member? And we created last year a member strategy office to make sure we were taking an outside-in look at not what do we think the right answer is, what's our member telling us that they need, and then how can we use the data that they permissioned to be able to best serve the needs that they articulate to us. So, and as an example of that, we are in the midst, I mentioned this earlier today, of going live on iOS with our next generation digital platform. We've already gone live on Android, finished that up about a month ago. We will ultimately be able to build into that platform the ability for our member to see exactly what their data is being used for and to selectively click what they want it used for and what they don't want it used for, so that they can be in control of their data. Because we built the data infrastructure, we built the API infrastructure, we already can meet most of the requirements that the CFPB has recently come out with. I'm not a big rules number guy, remember, but I think it's 1033.
That sounds about right. We may have been talking about that a little bit. I love the emphasis on data and the security around it, but then the other word that you used was control and the power of your members and the end user to control that data. I think the other thing that Navy Federal has like really excelled in is the trust, because it is both of those things. So empowering them to control that, but also trusting that when you are utilizing that, you're doing it in the best way for your members. I'm going to shift gears slightly and go to Dietrich, the leader. I know some of this stuff, but I would love for our audience to hear a bit more about, if you were to reflect on your career, what's the best piece of advice that you've ever been given?
It's hard to say it was advice, because, well, so as you know, Scarlett, I spent 35 years in the Navy. I was a submariner, but I actually spent some time at sea on a carrier strike group staff. And the flag officer, the admiral that I worked for, asked me to go talk to my detailer and help me select where I was going to go next. And he looked at what the available jobs was, and he said, "You're going here." And I said, "Oh, okay." My detailer didn't necessarily agree, but in the end, that's where I went. And that was, the Navy doesn't actually have folks that we grow in finance. They take operators. I'm a submariner, but they take aviators and surface operations folks, and you get a subspecialty. So while I've served on multiple submarines, I've also done 7 tours in the Pentagon, managing budgets. And my last tour in the Pentagon, I had basically the responsibility for doing capital allocation for about $800 billion of the Navy's money, to about 3,000 line items of the Navy's efforts.
800 billion for the record, big number.
Yes.
So first and foremost, thank you for your service.
Thank you.
As you and I have discussed, I have a large family who are either former or active military, and specifically the Navy is in general the branch of choice for them. We talked a bit about, the 24,000 employees and the incredible privilege and responsibility to be a CEO. It can be a lonely journey. When you hear, because this audience is quite senior, but we have a lot more of, and I heard on your session today as well, the idea of like the next generations. What advice would you give for those that are listening that aspire to be the next Dietrich, CEO of Navy Federal?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think some of the best advice is to show up every day trying to make the people around you look good, especially the team that works for you. I have found I have learned more from the folks that worked for me than sometimes the folks I worked for. So when I first got to Navy Federal, I ran the branch network. And for the first 8 months, I went out and visited 125 branches. I talked to every single member service representative. That's what we call our folks inside the branch. And that's how I learned, really, the banking business was directly from them, our frontline teams. And if you just spend your time figuring out how to help them and how to make those around you look good, you're probably going to look pretty good too.
I got goosebumps on that answer. That was such a good answer. Obviously, I am aware of, and now the audience is aware of your vast experience in the Navy. If you were to have an alternative career, an alternative path, not within financial services, what would you be doing?
Well, what's the real answer? The real answer is that while I would say 90% of the admirals and generals that I know that get out of the military say, "I'm not going to work in defense," 95% of the admirals and generals do work in defense. So I would probably be one of those folks working in the defense industry and still trying to serve in some capacity and making a meaningful difference, which, there are lots of ways to do that. I'm just very blessed that I ended up at Navy Federal and able to really directly impact and make the lives of service members and their families better.
So this is a hard question and stumps some people because it's hard to articulate shortly. But if you were to describe your leadership style in 3 words or a sentence, if you must, what would it be?
I only get 3.
You're a
So
role follower. I think you can do it.
So I'll just drop one.
Okay.
Members, our mission.
Okay. There you go. What is the first app that you check when you wake up in the morning?
Outlook.
Your email?
My email. Yes.
How many emails do you usually wake up to?
Lots.
Hundreds?
Certainly leading into Money 2020, it was hundreds.
Everyone wants to meet with you. Who wouldn't? So this last question, I've really enjoyed the time with you. It's hard not to, given the incredible work that you do and your team does. If you could, you have the entire global ecosystem of money listening to this. If you could leave the audience with one thing, what would it be?
I think it would be the message that the panel gave earlier today. It's that really credit unions are here and passionate about the purposes they serve and the people that they're trying to serve. And that we have a tremendous desire to want to help, motivated as not-for-profits, to always try and do the best thing for our members. And we're always looking for partners that want to join us in that effort. And that can be our business partners, partners within other credit unions. We're doing several partnerships with some charity organizations now that directly flow and support our members. So that partnership is really important, and the people we're trying to take care of are phenomenal people that are incredibly important too.
I love it. And as we're sitting here, one of the camera crew is also a member. So you got them all over. You can't go around without, running into someone who is part of your membership. So Dietrich, thank you so much for your time. For all of you, you missed some of the great sessions earlier, but one of the things that came out about credit unions, almost nearly $500 million globally, and we're going for that billion. So thank you all and looking forward to seeing you next time.